thank you for all you do. We appreciate everything. Yes. We are at the Council on Aging, the Senior Center in Hadley, to conduct our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for Hadley, Massachusetts. I would like to call the meeting to order. It is 7:05 p.m. Okay, now, anybody have any open reflections regarding anything that they've encountered in the past month since we haven't been here?
I'm still glowing from having had all-you-can-eat waffles at the North Hadley Sugar Shack with three lovely women in their 80s. So
That was
it was,
wonderful.
that's where I'm coming from.
I'm glad. I wish I would have known. I love.
The stories they
waffle.
tell.
Yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful.
I have a very brief reflection. There's a really nice article in the Gazette by Andrea Vazian. I mean, copies.
Oh, thank
And
you.
It's great.
She is a DEI professional, and with the climate of what we are hearing in the news, she's just written a good piece, and people can read it later, but I thought I'd share that.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's minister of the Baptist church
Alden Baptist Church in
in
Springfield.
Springfield.
And the founder and director of the Sojourner Truth School for Social Change Leadership. I've gone to some of their presentations.
Okay.
Yeah. I like that.
So, there was an update to the minutes that I did not get a chance to correct yet. But I can tell you what they are as I read along. And since you weren't here, Megan, I didn't include you.
That's
Yeah, okay, all right.
Totally.
Just wanted to make sure. So in the minutes, if everyone can pull them up, I don't know if you have them or,
Here's
okay.
my copy.
Where it says regarding Ash Hartwell, Joanne wanted to include the actual name, which I should have known to do.
Oh,
But
the
I-
group is affiliated.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
but I am so thankful that Joanne let me know that because, you know, I would have not have, done that. But it's called the Interfaith Opportunities Network. The acronym is ION. And
I know.
the acronym, okay. And just where it says, I asked how her first meeting was, before that, you can put down ION meeting, ION meeting.
Right.
Let's see here.
So we could slide that in where it says JG joined the group affiliated. We could say joined
Join the
Interfaith Opportunities Network,
Correct.
comma, the group affiliated with Ash.
Interfaith. Well, the way Joanne put it down is she just wanted it to be
I have
that
it.
name. She just wanted to be that name with the acronym.
Yeah.
So I guess to keep it short, but
Sure.
self-explanation, self-explanatory.
Mm-hmm.
So when I asked how her first meeting as a new member went, her first meeting with the ION, correct?
Mhm.
And
And I have a tweak to the next paragraph.
sure. So also, that was a little confusing to me, Joanne, because something I'm going to bring up, I did I did this based on the video of our last
Okay.
meeting. And in our last meeting, you did say that you attended it twice. One was a guest.
Yes.
And the other one, you were not able to attend the meeting because it was on the day you were away.
Mhm.
But then you stated you did go to two meetings.
No,
So the total was three.
I was a guest.
Right.
Then I joined, and
Okay.
then I missed the next meeting, which had been in the February meeting.
So it was two then. Like,
Yeah,
okay.
I've been to two.
So I did put down in here, she did attend a meeting as a member, not a guest,
Mhm.
and it was lovely,
Mhm.
and she then stated she did attend as a member, not a guest.
Correct.
Okay,
Mhm.
so I have that. I just wanted to be sure on that, so
Beautiful.
when I correct it.
Mhm.
That was it for that, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
And also Pat, she wanted me to update it to where I mentioned Elizabeth. That she wanted me to say that Elizabeth is a high school senior
Okay.
of the DEI at Hopkins. Correct, Pat?
No, I was talking about Aisha, not
Oh,
Elizabeth.
Aisha, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes, Aisha was a high school
And I'm pretty
senior.
sure she's a senior in high
Mhm.
school at Hopkins Academy. I think that's
Okay.
what
Mhm.
she shared.
That
Is
She did say that, yes.
that correct? Senior, not
That's
junior.
why I reach out because
That's right.
things can, be updated. So Elizabeth's a student of the DI of Hopkins and Aisha Anjum. You want me to put a senior at Hopkins?
Yeah,
Okay,
great.
Hopkins Academy,
right. Well, yeah, I have the academy, but I just want to make sure you wanted me to put a senior,
yes.
okay?
Great.
And her father, Hershid Karim. And that's the other thing I need to correct. In our last meeting, I mentioned her father's last name is Anjum, and it is Karim or Kareem, whichever they prefer to sound. So I just want to correct that so I can give the proper affiliation and explanation of his name.
Great.
Okay, anything else? Mark, you said you had something?
Yeah, I've got in 4B
Okay,
on the third line, it says the lack of funds
Right.
from. I would change that to the lack of funds for the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, and then I would add the word services.
okay, again, I'm
Because
just taking it from the visual.
yes, so it wasn't money from them, it was, we're waiting to get a state grant to fund their services.
Okay,
So the easiest way to change it would be just to say lack of funds for Pioneer Valley,
Planning
PC
Commission
services.
Okay,
That's why it wasn't moving forward. We were waiting to fund that. And
Okay.
then,
and loss of members.
yeah,
Then I put down that you stated you have reached out to 3 new members as well as there have been approval to fund the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. And everything should be starting back up in March, correct?
and it did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any corrections? No?
The
Okay.
last
Oh, sure.
line of page 1, item 7, closing reflections.
Yes,
I would capitalize Amherst at the end of the last sentence.
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. As you see, everything else has been
Takes a
capitalized, but
village.
that.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah, great.
okay.
didn't want you to think I didn't read your minutes.
Well, I'm glad, Mark, you are the
Good.
one, Pat and Joanne,
Good.
thankful for this committee because me doing everything I do for the town, for my life and everything, I appreciate assistance from anywhere I can get it.
Sure.
No matter what. I love criticism. It makes me grow and I appreciate anyone else's opinion to help me get through this. And I give my commendments to everyone on this committee. Thank you so much. Even for Nick for making me look gorgeous. Okay,
Great.
so.
So may I move that we approve the minutes? Is that how it goes? Oh,
Well,
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that going forward, usually we're not like this, Candida. I did the minutes, I totally forgot them, and like today, I'm like, oh, I did not do the minutes, and I had to do them and get everything and send it out, so I apologize for this, and I hope that we do not cut into the time that you have for us. I do appreciate you being here, I really do. Okay, so now I would like to know who would like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
I would like to make a
Joanne, like
motion to
first?
approve the minutes.
And
I
Mark
will
second.
second it.
Okay. And all in favor?
Joanne, yes.
Everybody?
Mark,
Okay.
yes.
Megan, yes. Christina,
Yes,
Okay,
Pat, yes,
Um,
all right,
now
unanimous.
Thank you.
unanimous. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5 to 0.
5, yes.
You did 4.
Nick voted no.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, so now we can move on to our guests. And for this meeting, I am going to hand the reins to Joanne Since Joanne is much more familiar with what Candida is doing, she's part of the group. She has been for a couple of years now, correct?
Almost 5.
Right, so she has been part of this group and she can elaborate on much more than what I can ask or even say. So Joanne, take over.
Thank you very much. Glad to see you all. So I prepared a little intro for those who want to see it. We can get it to later.
Okay.
So our guest tonight, I am pleased to introduce Candida Brooks Harrison, who has a master's in social work degree and is a licensed social worker. She is the founder and president of the Village Enrichment Associates located in Brooklyn, New York. They provide individual couples and family counseling that integrates the impact of race, diversity, and intersectionality, which she calls RDI, as part of a holistic approach. She developed the Race, Diversity, and Intersectionality RDI reflective process model to facilitate productive dialogue. I, Joanne, have been a participant in a bi-monthly group meeting called the Sensitivity Circle that practices this RDI model. It is facilitated by Candida, and occasionally if she can't make it, another one of her trained colleagues. And it is sponsored by the Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of Amherst, Massachusetts. We have been meeting bi-monthly, sometimes once a month, since August of 2020. In this online group meeting, we share and support each other about race, equity, and diversity issues. We bring up topics from current events, from our spiritual paths, our personal experiences, or whatever is on our hearts. The circle has had many participants from Western Massachusetts and beyond, including Ash Hartwell, who we've all met. And there are also attendees who are trained in this RDI process and work with the Village Enrichment with Candida. And they're from the Brooklyn, New York area. Some participants have attended a foundational PowerPoint training session in the reflective process and practice, RDI, presented by Candida. With this foundation, our group has found common language and reference points that are helpful for addressing differences. In the group, we continue to learn as we strive to engage in dialogue with each other and apply these RDI concepts. It's an ongoing learning process. Candida Yannick said that at the last meeting. And we last met just this past Friday. Some of us expressed interest in doing the training again. I'm one of those people. Wrapping up, I'd just like to say, I've learned a lot from this group and found it useful in my work and life because it gives me tools for effective dialogue across differing viewpoints. And for those people who wish to enhance their dialogue with diverse people, such as family members with different views, colleagues, clients, neighbors, committee members, perhaps, and want more tools and understanding on how to bridge differences, I humbly suggest that training like this and group practice could be valuable. Lastly, I'll just say I shared about this practice with Sarah, who was a previous member of our committee, and with Crystal, and they both expressed interest, and that's how this came about. So with that, I'd like to invite Candida to share more. I do have more details about what you do, but I'd like to hear it from you, and perhaps some of the communities that you serve and how people benefit and what comes to mind, and then maybe we can open it up for some questions. So you have the floor, Candida.
Okay, well, thank you all for having me. That's the first thing. And any place and anyone that's interested in moving DEI forward, that's where I want to be. And I have been for the last 25 or so years. I've had the privilege of working in Massachusetts, in Amherst and in Hadley, on a few grants that have been up there. One, a pipeline grant for high school students to become nurses, as well as for veterans, heroes into healthcare, for them to become nurses after being medics in the military, and also with faculty. My background, as Joanne did say, is in social work and education. So before becoming a social worker, I was an educator, special educator, general educator, and taught for a long time in university, 15 years, teaching teachers. And when I first started with this, it was called multicultural education. That's where this was back in the 90s. And of course, over the years has developed into something more. And I did become a social worker and I hold both a master's and a doctorate in social work, along social welfare, because I realized that I needed to have both of these perspectives if I were truly going to serve children and families, which is where I started. So, the work really began back then. And over time, as an organizer, I realized that some of the work to move equity, which is where we really focus forward, was being disorganized because people didn't have a shared language, like they all had the same goal. We want equity, but how to get to it was problematic when people's identities and their lived experience would come in, and then there was no real language for them to share what they wanted to do, for them to work through difficulties and mismatches, which is the term that we in RDI, we don't talk about having conflict. We talk about having mismatches because conflict already sets you up for conflict. It sets you up for a sort of aggressive stance, while a mismatch sets you up for, can we work through it and it's not right or wrong, but we're coming at it from different perspectives. And so that is a lot of the work, is helping organizations to do their DEI work, their equity work, and to do systems change. So that's the work that we do every day, is systems change work. My clients at the village are from government. So we have governmental agencies that have contracted with us in the city. And we've also have lots of universities, schools, because as I said, I started out in schools, and then in healthcare. Those are our primary places. And the next largest group that we work with are in the criminal legal system. So our clients are working towards oversight in prisons and such. They also are looking at reentry into communities. And everyone, the thread that's running through it is that everyone wants to have equity in whatever system they're working in. Okay. I guess I need to start by also saying that relationship is everything. You can see it back here, because what we feel is that if we're in positive relationship with one another, if that is the goal, to center our shared humanity and be in positive relationship, then we can work through mismatches and then do the work together in a more collaborative way. We make room for the idea that there are multiple perspectives, even from people who believe in the same goal. And that's where we do that work with folk. So how does that happen? Much like the group that we're doing with the Every Other Week Friday group that was mentioned earlier by Joanne, it was so that we could get on the same page, where we could have difficult conversations that people find difficult. We could make them less difficult by holding space for the multiple perspectives, by using something that we call relationship facilitators, which are 20 key things that every human being needs. They need active listening. They need, so active listening, which is listening for understanding rather than rebuttal. Because oftentimes that's what people do. I'm going to listen very deeply to you so I can tell you how you're wrong. Well, that's antithetical of building a community and doing work forward. We also have things like self-esteem and self-awareness. And people often say, why self-esteem? Is because if my self-esteem is intact and strong, then I can hear differences and I don't take it as a personal assault. I don't take it as someone doesn't like what I'm saying, but more I can hold space for difference. The relationship facilitators are sort of how we always engage. And we start every meeting, every policy decision by saying that we're going to adhere to that. Some of the services, those are some of our processes. And if you were to do a foundation training and orientation to the model, we would go through each of these areas, the relationship facilitators, a set of strategies that we have, and we build a critical analysis together. And this also was helpful in working with groups that want to do systems change because you build it together. Everyone is a part of it, so there's buy-in. So those are processes that we use, and how we do the work is often through dialogue with one another. So in governmental agencies, we have different groups that meet according to their division, and what they talk about is what they need to do in their divisions and their sphere of influence to bring in those multiple voices so that we can then make effective policy decisions. And policy decisions such as hiring practices, service delivery, just working together on team projects, so project management. Those are the kind of policy decisions that are made, but in collaboration with each other. The other piece is that those meetings are part of everyday life at work, and people are able to talk about anything. So it sort of says we can talk about race, we can talk about gender identity and expression, we can talk about age. And it's all right, even in the workplace, because we're going to hold space for those multiple perspectives. So that's in a very small, short presentation of what it is that we do. Who we serve are communities and all organizations, both private and government. And I think I'll pause there for a moment because that's a lot, and not having seen the model, it may be that you have some questions.
Anyone have any questions?
Thoughts?
So are you? Well, I'm sure there's a broad, are you seeing that your services are sought out by organizations or communities or both? You know, like, you talked about hiring practice, so that made me think of organizations, but it also sounds like it would be wonderful for just general communities.
Absolutely. Yes, all of the above. As the first thing was anyone that's interested in equity, this model that we use is for every human being. So it doesn't matter what system you're working in or you're a part of. We also have a clinical side, which does direct practice, therapy. And we find that people use the same model for mending relationships in their family systems. We have it in community organizations as well, because this is a human model. It's not really a model that excludes any facet of human life. So some of the things that we do with community is that we actually do some of the pro bono services. So a few times a year, we'll have an open forum or a conference at a university where we're partnering with the university and community to bring folk in. I partnered with the School of Nursing, UMass Amherst, and we did an open for community. And we had a couple of your schools, and actually Hadley, they came to the schools, the young people. And so we put, because this can be shared with young people, kids can also see, they get it. And they understand that these relationship facilitators help them not just when in diverse communities, but just one-on-one. So we do that. We've had them in Brooklyn, Connecticut, Florida. We're not just we're based in New York, but we go wherever we need to go. And so, yes, community is absolutely a part of it. I start as a community organizer after being an educator. When you live long enough, you can have a few specialty areas. So, but yes, as a community organizer doing systems change work, and I still am. I'm now also teach policy, and what I teach social workers is how to bring this to community. And you cannot deliver services for a community if you haven't listened to the community. If you if you haven't done the work. And so this is a relationship-based model.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, I just want to say, I appreciate everything that you are doing. I am really happy and satisfied with everything. And I wanted to ask you, have you attributed any of your personal experiences to this model?
Absolutely. So thank you for that question. Yeah, no, definitely. So first I'll just say that I come from a family that always centered equity, right? So I grew up in that, family, older relatives who were part of SNCC, father who is a man of color who is African American and Indian who tried to fight to get into serve on the submarine in World War One. Like he had to write as congressperson to be allowed to serve, and was told at first, well, why don't you go through your, they didn't use the word indigenous roots, but your Indianness.
Right.
Kind of thing. So I come from that kind of background. All of my relatives do this kind of work in whatever sphere they're in, but this model was developed in my early work in education. And as I said, multiculturalism was what we were looking at. And that's how I grew up as an educator, was thinking about how do we educate children in a way that makes the content relative for them. And then also having children with special needs, because I was dually certified in both of those areas, this became a part of my work. Then later becoming a social worker and doing organizing in the community, I started to see that we were becoming disorganized because identities were problematic. One person feeling that their identity was not focused on enough and then wanting to split off or having different ideas about how do you go about this, and so I realized that I needed, as someone who was at the forefront of this, to develop something that would help us to be in positive relationship with us, because how were we about to change anything if we couldn't even work together collaboratively without there being this acrimony within the community of organizers. And I stay with this. I'm a co-founder, and member of the Anti-Racist Alliance, which is in New York, that looks at, and it's a collective of educators and organizers and social workers and healthcare people who wanted to change the systems that they worked in. And so that was part of my initial bringing up, and also being a part of the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond, who do the Undoing Racism workshop. They became technical support in those early days in the like 2000 and 2001. So this is when I knew that as an educator, I could write curriculum that might help. And then this sort of grew out of that. So yes, it's both my personal experiences as an African-American woman living in the United States and the context of my family, and then all the way up to the actual work that I do and did as an educator and social worker. And I brought this to the universities where I've taught as well.
Excellent. Would you say that there were many challenges or roadblocks in your pursuit or your path to get it done per se? Instead of everything just going smooth sailing, I'm quite sure that it was a lot of pushback, and you definitely had to use that inner strength that you received from your elders to keep going forward, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, one of the relationship facilitators is values. And when we have values, it doesn't mean that we have to have exactly the same value, but we have to have a guiding principle that we operate from, and that then we can build together. If we don't have a set of values, it makes it hard to be in positive relationship, not impossible, but it's difficult. And so, yes, to, the question about my elders, the family, there was a set of values. And at the center of those values were that we were all humans. And I have centered that in this model, is that every human needs a certain set of ways of being with one another for us to feel like the relationship is positive. And that's also informed by my background in, social work and education, that we know how children thrive and develop and how we become humans that, can self-actualize. So all of that, there's theoretical underpinnings, which I'm definitely not going to go into now, but however, this is part of that background. So smooth sailing? No.
Exactly. Yeah.
Smooth sailing, even in the groups I had today, we do a check-in with each other for every meeting. That's part of this process, is that we know you bring your whole self. So at any meeting, we want to check in with the people who are there. And my check-in has been cautiously optimistic. And why I say that is that I'm optimistic in the humans who are experiencing this life and deciding that they want to make change. That's where my optimism lies. It does not lie in the politics of the moment. And while we have different political climates, every time we get a new person in our executive branch, we have to rely on each other to make sure that we stand on those values that we hold dear. And so that's a part of the work. And when it gets really tough, we have community to help us through. And that's why relationship is everything. Because it's through those relationships that we're able to keep going through.
Also have a few more. Did anyone
No,
else want to
please go.
speak? I don't want to take over someone else's time if they have questions.
I would
Pat?
love to hear your questions. Yeah, or Pat?
Pat, you have any
Pat,
questions?
you have
I
any
just don't
questions?
want to keep going and you may have questions.
I just really appreciate every word that you have shared, especially now when I am feeling deeply disturbed about the division in the country. And I have a similar background, Candida. I was actually dual certified, went right into higher ed, worked in higher ed for my career, and I'm retired now. So I had the privilege of working in communities where people had shared values for the most part.
Yeah.
And now I am outside that community in the world, in the country, and trying to think of ways that I might be able to promote a more shared perspective than I'm feeling. Not necessarily in my personal relationships, but as I watch the news, as I hear people speak about other people, as I think about decisions that are being made that are not person-centered,
Yes.
and a value for capitalism over care. I mean, I just am troubled, really, truthfully, and I've been really trying to think of, what can I do personally to
Yeah.
promote exactly what you were talking about.
Right.
Stronger relationships, shared values, etc. So I applaud the work you do, and I'm inspired, really. And thank you. I needed that today.
Thank you. Because in this relationship, even now when we talk about relationship, we say it could be for 5 minutes, it could be for 5 years or 50 years. But if we think about every interaction with another as a relationship, including our interactions with ourselves, we can do collectively a lot. So I'm appreciating the relationship right now that we're engaging in. Yes.
Thank you.
I like when you use the word human, when you refer to people as a collective. Not a lot of people do that. They do not recognize us as humans. They talk about everything around being a human, but they do not specify how we're all the same. We are all human. And that's something I want to commend you on because, again, it's not recognized as we're all humans. We're recognized as different races, different culture, different demographics. We're never addressed as human. And that's something to me that lets me know that you are a person who values personalities, who values relationships, who is an honest person that wants things to get better, not just using this as a model to be successful. It seems like you truly want to help. You've been in this business for so long that you know what you've experienced and how you've combined that experience with your business and helping it to grow. And that's something that I appreciate hearing from you. As well as when you touched on the children's aspect, they are definitely these days, they are much more smarter than growing up. And it would be lovely if we could have a group of children, teenagers, even toddlers, adolescents, to have a group to listen to what you're saying, because once you plant the seed, it's there, whether they remember it today or tomorrow. And the building that you're doing can help build a better future with all of our children and all of our peers and our neighbors. And just having that relationship, as you said, whether it's 5 minutes of hello, have a good day, that brings joy to you if you truly mean it. If you just say, hi, how are you doing, as a way of just expressing words, it's not fulfilling that inner peace, that relationship that you have established. It's actually going over it, and it's not, you were better off not even saying anything instead of just saying. So I do appreciate this, and I would like to learn more about it when you have a chance. And also, you stated that you were with the Anti-Racist Alliance in New York. You said you're,
Yes.
can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. That started in 2000. and it happened. Wait, before I do that, I just wanted to share with you something of when you talked about preschool. Um, it can happen very young. Several of our clients are preschool in the
See?
communities, and
Yes.
we help the teachers to learn how to bring that equity into the curriculum that they're using at the school. And so, early on, it was like, what kind of library should they have? What kind of books? How do you work it in? How do you help them to notice difference? Because developmentally, preschoolers do notice difference, right? Somewhere around 18 months where we're seeing all the sorting of shoes and the sorting of people and thinking about it, so how do we then uplift that? And I just remember an early curriculum that I had developed was called like Everybody's Brown. And what it was, white people that we say are white people are really kind of beige, and people who, are really kind, so we kind of went through all the shades of brown, from the lighter shade of brown to the darker shades of brown, and they could all locate themselves, and it was so much fun. So I just, like, everybody's brown, no one's white or black, literally. So you just brought me back to very early days that were on the heels of my multicultural education, but as a social worker. But anyway, so you asked me
About the
about the
anti.
Anti-Racist Alliance. Yes, so that began in around 2000, and I was at the time at the Jewish Board of Family and Children's Services. And there were a small group of us, Mary Pendergreen, who's very still here in this work, Sandy Burnaby, who is, these are all folk, Cheryl Franks, people who were in university, in social service agencies, and educators. And what we were noticing, and I'll say what I was noticing, is that I would get social workers into, at that time, I was a senior team member doing early childhood group therapy program. That's what we were teaching people, how to do that. And how to become an early childhood therapist. And we would get people there, and then clinicians in the Child Development Center, they would go in the communities, but they had no idea of how to be in community. And I remember there was such a push around resistance, and I, as the only Black woman there, was like, well, maybe it's not resistance, maybe it's a normal reaction to people not understanding them, and that we didn't have any diversity. And the chief of social work and other faculty at universities, we started thinking about how could we change the social work curriculum, in particular in schools, so that we would have better prepared social workers that would come out and do community work, because that's what social work is, right? It grew up in social reform, and that's where it was launched out of inequity. So how can we make that happen? And so we were organizing around that, and then we branched into schools. So that was how that organization, it's all volunteer. Everyone who participates, there's no fee. It's not, we don't take money. It's just like people wanting to collectively organize to make their system better, whether it was education, higher education, K through 12 or preschool. How could we do better, and how can we better prepare? Out of that grew many of the diversity courses that we have in New York schools of social work. We launched something called the Undoing Racism internship program. So we took in interns from the school and were teaching them how to organize for their own education, so that they could get more at the, you shouldn't pay all this tuition and come out and not really know how to work with folk in community, if that's where you intend to be. So that's how that grew. It is still functioning. There's a Westchester group, which is sort of north of New York City. And you can look at the website. So that was something that one of the community organizing type things that we did early on before DEI was being called DEI. We didn't, that was not the words that we were doing equity work and then DEI and DIB and all of this became more popular now. And in the current 47th administration, that's probably going to fade away and we're going to call it something else, but it'll still be the work, you know. And actually I'm getting some, you know, your question about some of the pushback, some of our clients are getting some pushback. We have something called, like, after they've gone through the foundation, and we have several trainings, like there's a core set of trainings that people will go to. And then we want to leave structures within the system so that it can continue to do the work. And one of the things we have was something called the accountability groups. So there was a BIPOC accountability group and a white accountability group, and then other kinds of accountability, but mainly those two. And we have pushback because people don't want to lose funding. And they're afraid that if you have things called accountability, that might feel like people are being forced to do something, and that they don't want to have lawsuits, they don't want to have funding issues. So we're already starting to see the impact of this, but we also saw it during the 45th administration, where I was doing work with NIH, and we were told, like, if we wanted grants to be funded, that maybe you should leave off some of these words. So you think of other words, you know, I think that people who do this work have been coding the work since the enslavement, you know, all the way up. You have to say it's something, use words or euphemisms that will catch on. And if they catch on, they might cause undue attention, but the work is the work, no matter what you call it, right? A rose is a rose.
Exactly, it comes with the thorns, just avoid the thorn. And you're right with the coding. By the time they do catch up, hopefully, the work will be out there and you can go ahead and do what you want, but it's already out there.
That's right.
You know?
And for us, I don't have to, we don't call it DEI anyway, because the idea is that it's relationship. You know,
Exactly.
it's under every human being wants it. So we don't even have to focus on calling it whatever they don't want us to call it. But we are interested in humans being in positive relationship with other humans. And I think really, if we could do that, the more we do it, the less polarization we would have, because people would understand. I had a conversation yesterday, and just tell this one thing. And it was about CUNY, our city university system is in the news right now because our governor Hochul said that there could not be a Palestinian studies course, although it had gone through faculty senate, it had been approved, the job posting was there. And I understand, and this is part of the work, is that these are very difficult conversations, because no matter what group you're in, people have parts of their identity invested in the outcome, and therefore they may be at odds with one another, even though they say they want equity, but equity for whom and in what capacity and when and under what circumstances. This is usually when we get into the issues or the problems with one another, and the mismatches occur. And so my students are very diverse, excuse me, they're doctoral students, very diverse, a group of people. And really having that discussion is something that doesn't usually happen in everyday life. We can do that. In academia, we can actually do that. We can have discourse, critical discourse with one another if we center relationship. And so you have to come in prepared to do that. And if you're not, then that's kind of like our ground rules at the beginning of semester is they do the RDI workshop as one of the modules. And that's what we use for the whole semester long. And they're having these conversations. I believe in humans. I think
Yes.
we can. I really,
Yes.
but it has to be, you have to have a framework for doing it because the current framework that we have as a society is someone has to win and someone has to lose. And that is not necessarily the case. We don't need a zero-sum game. We could share in
Right.
it's there for all humans. We don't have to be losers and winners. And what Nelson Mandela said, he never he said it's not about winning. Like, so he never wins. He never loses. He only learns.
Yeah,
You know,
learns, yes,
And
learns.
that's
that's a
the,
paraphrase.
Sure.
that's the whole issue of today.
Mhm.
Someone wanting to win, someone wanting to be better, instead of trying to get to know each other, because we all, under the surface, we all bleed red. We only
Yeah.
have this color, this coating on the outside. So if we can look past that color or past the educational diversity, past the demographics, you may have something truly identifiable or in common with that person that you did not want to see because of those situations. And I just believe in togetherness. And like you said, if you have to come into this program with self-appreciation and not haughtiness, but confidence in knowing who you are.
Mhm.
This way you can form a strengthened, valued relationship with someone else and not feel that the things they say or the things they do are always directed at you to attack you. Learn from whatever your whatever group you're in, whatever conversation you learn. There's no need to not learn. It's always a learning moment. And when you have that state of mind, then you can definitely help the next person instead of, having that information and not sharing it, having that information and not using it,
Yeah.
looking at people differently.
And definitely the centering of humanity. I'll just say, so I love to travel because I learn more from going to where people are. So I was in Israel a few years ago, actually with a group of Baha'is. And while I was there, I had my favorite cab driver who was the person who I liked to talk to the most, and he became the guy that would pick us up and take us where we wanted to go. But what I appreciated about this man was an Israeli Jew, and I was there at the time that the embassy was moved. And so that happened while we were there. And what he asked me, he said, "How do I feel about, the current administration?" And I said, there have been many administrations, and some I like and some I don't. I said, and there'll be others. And I left it like that. And I asked him, how did he feel? He said, well, he said that he believes that the 45th president was very pro-Israel and that he should be happy about that. He said he is in one respect, but he said that what it happens is that people on the outside don't wholly understand the society that they're making decisions about. He said he said that the Palestinians, and this predates where we are now, that the Palestinians want the same thing that he wants for his children. They want them to be happy and healthy and be able to progress and grow up and be well. He said, that's what I want for mine. He said, but we have issues here. And when people make these kind of decisions, they make it harder for us. I thought
Exactly.
that's a very interesting perspective. We had lots of discussions about that and other things, but that was one of the pieces that he was centering humanity. He didn't talk to me in that time around the disagreements or the mismatches in the perception of what should happen. But it was more that he was feeling empathy for people that, did harm, were harmed, whatever way you want to look at it. He was feeling empathy. And in that empathy, it was because of the shared humanity. They want the same thing for their kids as we want for ours. Now, how do we get there? That was the discussion. So it's very RDI that, and I will never forget him. I have his card. I didn't go back to it. So our relationship did end there. But it was a very nice relationship for the whatever time, week or so that we did spend together. So I just wanted to say that relationship is everything, and we have to center humanity.
And with that relationship that you had with the taxi driver, you were able to share it with us. And gives us a better insight as well on the common people and what they think, instead of looking at the political issue as a whole. And you've spoken to someone who actually could have leaned one way or the other, but was very, very, in the middle of the whole issue. And he was showing you he is a human, he is a person, and he's not someone that's looking to hurt anyone. And as he stated, we do not know, unless we literally have connections with someone in Israel, Palestine, Gaza, wherever, we do not know but what the media tells us, the political authorities tell us. So it's always good to know how someone from that place can give you an outlook that was in a median range. It was not leaning one way or the other. It just was for everyone. And I think that's something that we can all look at beneath the surface. We all just want the same thing,
And I just want to, full disclosure, everyone that I talked to there did not feel that way. There were a bunch of, so Israelis, they're certainly not a monolith. And some of the conversations were challenging to hear, but I was there to hear it.
Right.
To bear witness that this is how another human being felt. But there was a significant number who were more like the driver that I was just sharing about, so that we can hold space for all these multiple perspectives. And the ones that felt differently, I wanted to hear why they felt differently and what they had been through, because lived experiences definitely impact how we see any situation. So, but I tell his story because it gave me, what did I come in here with? Cautious optimism. That's what optimism was and still is with people who are willing to be present as a human with other humans.
I always say, as you stated, in the early years when, the interns or the people who were volunteering went out to the community, they didn't know how to be in the community.
Yeah.
So I always say, whenever you meet someone, they may be standoffish, they may not know because they are part of a different community. But if you put yourself in their shoes and you say to yourself, okay, I'm this person, what has this person been exposed to? What does this person see me as? What are the threats or the fears that this person may have towards me? Maybe because of an experience, maybe because of the media, you never know. So it's up to you. You can't change the idealism of everyone against a whole race, but you can at least make someone's encounter pleasurable. You can allow someone to experience that outside of their norm, that, hey, I did meet someone of this nationality, this gender, this color, and I feel a little more relaxed. So if I meet the next person, maybe I won't be as fearful to say hi. So if you always try to put yourself somewhere else instead of your own space, you may see what's really happening on the other side. And you might be able to have a very, very conscious conversation with these people, whoever it may be. And you can learn a lot about someone by just a single hello.
Yeah, I like how you talk about focusing on the shared humanity, and I often think in analogies, it's like if you used a bush or a shrub, you know, we all grew from the same stem, but then this branch is on the east and this branch is on the west. Instead of fighting each other and looking at how you differ, you could look at what you have shared and work together instead of fighting each other. It's
Yeah,
your intersectionality.
yeah,
I like it.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's great.
Thank you so much. It's really inspiring to hear your knowledge and wisdom and sort of the depth of your experience with this work. I really appreciate it. I'm also a social worker and I'm teaching at UMass, so I'm trying to hold the clinical and education and blend the two, right? I guess I'm curious about, I hear that when you run or help facilitate groups or trainings, working with organizations, that you have this model where people sort of engage in this learning. I guess I'm wondering how you build enough trust to get people really talking, because, you know, so many people understandably hold back for a variety of reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know, Joanne, if you'd like to maybe speak to that, because you were in the beginning of a group. I mean, I will answer you, but we also have someone on your committee who was at the beginning. So what did it feel like in the beginning?
Well, for me, the space was created where I and others felt really seen and listened to, and those check-ins, there were no limits, no agenda. It was what are you bringing to the space? And in the beginning, so Candida was there, and you had 2 or 3 others that had trained, Yannick and Merla. So you
Yeah.
were modeling. They were regularly, the way that Merla would share, I felt like, wow, I have permission to share that I had a crummy day. Merla did that with such grace, and it didn't feel crummy, it felt honest. So that, and the whole time we're meeting, I'm just feeling such appreciation because this work has enriched me a lot, but that would be what I would say as a participant. Is that piece? Would you like to add?
Can I say something?
Oh, yeah.
So what you're saying is, in that space, Candida and her affiliates made you feel safe enough to express your true feelings.
Yeah.
There wasn't a space where you felt like if you said this, you'd be judged. Or
Exactly.
you don't want to say anything because maybe you're white. You don't want to say anything because you're Spanish, Asian. You felt as if there were no boundaries in color, age, gender. You felt safe.
Yes, and in the beginning, there were some fireworks that I remember well. And I'm not necessarily remembering if it involved me, but the way that Candida would lift up that these are 2 views. And you're really skilled at this. I can't think of an exact instance, but there were several like that, where there was a way that you were able to tell each individual, like lift up their viewpoint and not make it a conflict, but help them to understand that's a viewpoint that you have. That doesn't mean that your viewpoint is the right one. And you did that very lovingly in a way that the person didn't feel shut down.
Yeah.
Did they feel validated, but maybe redirected or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Well, I don't think it'd be redirected. I think that it would be acceptable. So your opinion is valued and accepted. So I understand how you feel. I understand what you're saying. We all do, and I appreciate you sharing that. And then lifting you up for taking that step and addressing that challenge that you may have within yourself.
There's another aspect too, and I can't speak for any of your other groups, but when we meet, there is no agenda. That's not, here's tonight's topic. It is wide open. And sometimes we go down a path that is brought up by an individual who might have been reading the news and what's going on. It might, I remember, so I will just share. Today is exactly 4 years from when my mother passed away. I remember in this group, bringing that to the group and everyone sharing their support and their experience of the loss of a loved one. It was so beautiful, Candida, which I've told you that before, but it was a space. I guess what I want to say, in a space where there's not an agenda, when you start sharing, there's never any, your time is up. There's not, you're not cut off. And sometimes some of the quiet people will 5 minutes later come step back in and say, you know, I really appreciate what thus and so said. And then I have this view, and then you just learned something new from that person. And at this point, after almost 5 years, you don't necessarily feel that Candida is the facilitator. It's more, we're all participating. But she might bring up some of these, you know, like the values or the different relationship facilitators. And sometimes they'll put that in the chat. And sometimes we'll share screens. These are all Zoom meetings. And I look forward to these. I tell my husband, this is my night. He would love to go on a date every Friday night, but this is my time.
That's right.
And I get, anything that makes you happy, honey, is good with him.
If the wife is not happy.
That's exactly right.
So.
You know,
I
I
was
can
going
certainly,
to put in the
Yeah.
chat. Actually, I was going to put in the chat the relationship facilitators, but I don't see the ability to do so. But I do see that I could share screen for just a moment, if that's okay with you.
oh,
Yeah,
nice.
because yes, you know that I'm always dropping it in the chat as a way for us to remember. And so I won't, these are the relationship facilitators here. And this is what I'm always dropping in to the chat box so that people can see that.
Are you able to enlarge that? Sorry.
Sure, let me do the slideshow. It'll give you the not now. So I think it may have settings where I can't for now, but let's see. I can, is this?
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can everyone see that?
We're just cut off, the one, values is the last one.
Yeah,
So if
you
we-
don't need to see. They're called relationship facilitators. That's what's at the top. And these
Okay.
are our guide for how we run any group, is that when we come in, and someone said it, acceptance. I think so. It's not redirection, but it's acceptance. And that is, and we talk about acceptance not being, oh, my doorbell is ringing. Okay, that acceptance is not about adopting what someone says, but accepting that it should exist in the sphere of humanity. And that's a different thing to think about. Active listening is not for rebuttal, but for us to understand one another. Adaptability is that, you know, we can create room and we can be flexible with one another, showing up authentically so that the person can trust you. Because if you don't show up authentically, then I don't know how I trust you. One day you're this, one day you're that. So these are the kinds of things that we reinforce that create a sense of safety, and everybody reinforces it. I begin as the facilitator, but everyone in the group becomes the facilitator, and that's how we leave, because we feel like if we do our job really well, you just call us back for technical support because you do this yourselves. And so you can see some of the other facilitators like self-esteem and self-awareness, sensitivity, time, that we honor what people's have in the past, in the present, and in the future, because that impacts the relationship. You know, what I want for the cab driver who said, I want my children, was thinking about what he does today as impacting the future. And he also knows the history of his country and his relationship to the Palestinian, and that impacts it now. So when and if you all decide to do the training, these are some of the ways in which we create those safe spaces. And I do apologize only because it's a little after 8. I can stay with you, but I do just need to answer the door. So give me one moment, okay?
Yeah.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
of course. Well, while she's gone, did we want to just kind of move on with what we have? So this way, when she comes back, we can almost be done with the agenda.
That'd be great.
Okay, so, old business, we have here does anyone have any insightful responses regarding our guests from the last meeting, Aisha or Elizabeth?
I was really, really inspired, and after that, I realized I knew 15 people who were immigrants at one point or other, 30 years ago, 2 years ago, and I emailed all of them the survey. I don't know if they responded, and I introduced myself, but I was really pleased I was able to attend the meeting. And then it just felt important. I think she said she'd had only 5 responses. And I just wanted to do I wanted to do something.
Yeah, support her work.
I really enjoyed that.
Right.
Yeah.
So Elizabeth was going to come today. Unfortunately, she did pull the papers to be a member, but she was not able to attend the meeting for some reason, so she wasn't able to be sworn in as a member, but she's hoping for next meeting that she can be.
She's a student.
Yes, she's a senior
She's a senior.
at
Oh,
Hopkins, and she's part of the DEI at Hopkins.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right.
She was in our last meeting, I told her to come so she could observe and see if this is something that she wanted to do, and she did, so she did sign up and everything, but they
Oh,
were supposed to
nice.
do it today, but they didn't.
Okay.
Okay,
And
what we're
Candida's back
doing,
here.
Candida, is we're just trying to catch up with a little bit of our agenda here, so we can give you the time you need. We'll only go over one more thing and get right back to you. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Anyone else have, any questions or anything regarding Aisha?
No.
Pat? No, Mark? No, Megan?
They were fabulous. They
Okay.
were impressive. I
Yeah.
don't think I was that self-aware and present at that age.
Yeah, so as far as new business, the review, I have information that Mark and I probably would want to share. We did go to a meeting, March 6th, I'm not sure. And Laura Baker of the CDC was there discussing the Econo Lodge, but we can table that for next month.
Okay. Yes.
And then the information regarding the Econo Lodge Affordable Housing Project, I guess we can discuss that and table it till next meeting as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
there's not a lot to discuss. Yeah,
Right.
they're in the process of getting their state funding, so, yeah.
Okay, so that will take care of it. We don't have to table it. Mark
Okay,
said
so-
they're in the process of getting the funding.
Great. So we'll just put 6A on the agenda for next.
Yeah,
Great. Okay.
6A for next
Next
month.
I will just add that when they were looking for a letter of support from us and from the town,
Mhm.
I was afraid that the select board might have some opposition, not all of it, but there might be members that were, so I reached out through Hadley Burns and some other people I knew that, and got a lot of pro-affordable housing people to attend that meeting in
Yes.
Zoom.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be a unanimous, whether it was going to be unanimous or not on the select board, they all, they supported the Econo Lodge
That's right.
transformation. But what came out of that was that, one of the people that attended started a new group, and so there's this group that's pro affordable housing, trying to just, think tank, just kind of spitball and come up with how can we help, and so that's, that's a really nice thing.
And then,
And that's where we were when their first meeting was, they asked Laura Baker to come.
right, and I have a lot to share. I know
Yeah.
Mark does as well,
Yeah.
from that meeting with
Yeah.
Laura, because Jessica sent us the email that Laura sent out with all the contact information and what whom she's going to contact. And we're even looking into having a meeting to have a subcommittee per se of people who want to be directly in contact and handle that information and try to take some of that weight off of Mark's committee, the Affordable Housing Trust, correct?
Yeah, and just what the community as grassroots can do to support.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll table that to
Yeah.
the next.
Okay, all right. So other than that, it would be any other guests for the meetings? Not yet. We can always come back to that. And then the open agenda reflections, that can be later. But back to you, Candida.
Yeah,
Back to my TV show.
I want her to hang on for like another 3 hours. No.
Yeah.
By the way, our groups are an hour and a half. The groups that we have,
Yeah.
the 6 to 7:30. And I don't see any reason why any of them couldn't drop in if they wanted to. Do you think, Candida?
What, to this thing?
What I was thinking, yes, of course, groups are always open. My concern would just be that you have the foundation training because and then, yes, wide open. We do work with communities. So if, you all think about everything that we've talked about, if at some point you think you might like to do a community event where you invite folk from Hadley who might want to come in and do the training. The summertime, in July and August, we have like extra free time, not free time, but we have a much more flexible schedule. And sometimes we will partner with a community group to bring it. And, we just need a letter from you all saying that we did it, but it's pro bono, so that, plus it's for community. For organizations and things like that, that's where we, doing training, that's work. But for community, we often do pro bono kinds of events with them. So you can think about that, and maybe, in July or August, you might want to schedule one and we, open it up to folk. We try those still on the smaller side because we want you to be able to hear each other in the training. So, maybe open it up to 25 or 30 people. And then we could do the training for you all.
And the training is free, as you stated, correct? So it's pro bono.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The training, is it free? I did hear you say pro bono.
We will do it, to be clear.
Yes.
In August, if you want to do a training as a community, because that's what you all are, we will do it for you free.
Okay.
And you can invite, or, a total of 25 or so people, would do the, so, I always say when we do these kind of community events where people are doing community organizing and wanting to change their community, be strategic about who you invite. Invite people that you think will continue to work and want to be really participatory. Because that's why we're doing it. That's why we do the free one, so that you can build your group up a bit. And so, yeah.
And as for children, how would we be able to go about incorporating this? Because I do remember you stating you helped teachers learn how to facilitate this in the education curriculum for the children. How would we go about learning that information?
So with that is when we're working with like school systems, they've already put in that's their goal. And so they have hired us to come in to do that. In the school that we worked with up there, where you all are in Emerson Hadley, it was through a grant. What was that grant? I don't remember the name of it. I'll tell you. I'll send it to you later. But it was through a grant through UMass Amherst. And so,
Okay.
right, with Dr. Swinney over there, I brought in, this component, the RDI component to her grant. And the Heroes into Healthcare was another one that we worked on, and we brought in this component to the care, and also worked with faculty around some curricular issues that they were having in curriculum mapping. So it's a bigger, those were projects.
Okay.
And that we worked on, and down here, and also Palm Beach, Florida, for 5 years, we worked with the preschools, training people how to do this, and that was a grant. Florida's a different place now, so I don't think
Yes.
that actually, I hear from we worked with, but it's a different, there's a different governor, some of these things change with the governor, but the work would are still doing the work. It's just not in your face as it was there, and it wasn't paid for by the community. So, so if when we do the training in the summer, if you all decide you would like to, we will commit to that. I will commit because I get to say what we commit to. Invite some teachers who
Yes.
will do
Yes.
Yes.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying, strategic in who you want to be there, because
Right.
they will take it back to the system
Yeah.
trying to do. So invite some teachers, invite social workers, invite people who are just interested community members who are like you, all part of, a DEI, the committee on DEI for your town. So that's why, like I said, that's why we do it, so that we can
Right.
you build coalition.
And Candida, would you do that on Zoom, or would you come up here?
On Zoom.
Okay,
Do it on Zoom, yeah.
okay. I still gotta find a way to meet you in
If
person then.
we decided to financially assist with you getting here, would you be able to come?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, that's a real easy question. We can do the work because of Zoom, and I could give away time, but to come up there, yes, if yes to that.
I
Yes,
think that person would be much better, because you can definitely feel the energy of the interaction rather than on Zoom. So I think it would be a definite value and interest for us to have you in person. I really do.
and you may start with the Zoom, the one that is going to be free. We are very adept at doing it on Zoom, so we wouldn't lose the energy, although I love doing it in person as well. But you might want to start with that. But if you have the funding, then sure, we will definitely come up there. But and you could have two. You could have the one that I'm going to give you free, and then you could do one in person. And
You said how many, who would be part of it?
they're all of
Oh,
2 hours with the 25 people. We have two facilitators, so myself and someone else, or two other people. I would do the one that
yes.
definitely, if you want me, I will come.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, we would want you to
I
come.
wanna hug her for
Oh my
real.
gosh. Be ready to be overwhelmed with affection and love.
So
I-
should we,
Oh,
as we need to wrap it up, Candida has we have each other's cell phone, text, email and whatnot. Shall I get the information from her and then
So,
share with everyone?
What you
would
can
like?
do on my end is you can provide Candida with my
Yeah.
email. And
Mhm.
this way I
Okay.
can brainstorm with you individually, and we can
Okay.
try to think of you'd be
Yeah.
included, but I just want her
Sure.
to have my email as
I
well.
love it. Yeah.
This way we can try to see what we can come up with, because I think this would be a wonderful addition to Hadley. Hadley is moving forward, and this is something that can definitely help us to move along.
I love it and I'm willing to work with you in whatever way you would like. And like I said, I've committed to a free on Zoom. And that will,
Okay.
and if you want to have a subsequent or in place of, we can also come there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate everything. And like Joanne said, I wish I can give you a hug, but I'll give you a virtual hug.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
send my love to you and your business
Mhm.
and just many, many blessings going
Yeah.
forward. Stay covered.
Where are
That's
those
all I
little
can
hearts
say.
that go up in Zoom,
Yeah,
those little
Yeah,
hearts?
you have to do that.
Yes.
We
was
do it.
meeting
Yeah.
with you all, so I hope to hear from you soon. Take care.
Thank you so
Anyone
much.
else that has
Thank you.
any
Take care.
closing questions or answer or anything for
We're-
Candida? No?
Thank you for all you
Thank you for
You're
giving us
doing-
an hour and a half of your time.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
to
I really
Yeah.
appreciate
build
it.
community instead of, we
Tearing
seem to be a
apart.
Yes.
country being torn apart.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, thank you. And again, I appreciate your patience. From Mary. Thank you. It was great talking. to
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, it's 8:30. We've already tabled most of the stuff that we're going to discuss, which is okay.
Mhm.
I just, the open agenda, I don't think we have anything. Does anyone have anything at all?
No, this was what was on.
Yeah,
my
this
mind.
is.
I wanted to, you know, I just appreciate all of you appreciating, because I've just been loving this for almost 5 years.
Mm.
You know, so I'm just really moved by all of it.
Great.
I would be open to hearing any suggestions or being made aware of any positive, peaceful resistance we can give to outside of here.
Yeah, I did have one question. How was the jazz? Music with the senior center?
Yes.
I had only seen the first 15 minutes of it, so watching the whole thing, I thought was fabulous. I don't know if you've all seen the whole thing, but it was.
And I know.
It would take time to watch.
I thought it
Yeah.
was very well received. There were probably. I can't remember now, maybe 8 to. I think there were definitely less than 10 people there,
Hmm.
but
Really? Less than 10?
I think so. I can't remember.
That's
But-
still okay.
Yeah.
But
they wanted
yeah,
to be
it
there.
was, everyone that was there was really taken with it, so.
Well, that's great to know.
Yeah, I was out of town, otherwise I would have been right there.
I thought I was going to be there and
Yeah.
time got by me and like, oh no, it's over.
Mhm.
So it really wasn't,
Mhm.
you know, something that I wanted to
Mhm.
actually miss, but I did and I'm not too happy with that, but.
Can't do everything.
I know
Don't
you
do
cannot.
everything.
So basically now. Closing reflections, I just would like to say thank you, everyone, for welcoming me as a member of this committee last year and working with me as the chair and helping me in all aspects and angles of this. I truly appreciate everything. I really do. Pat, you've been my rock of Gibraltar going through this thing and I truly appreciate it. Mark, you have assisted me in manners that I am so just so appreciative of. Joanne, your actual conversations with me and understanding and role switching
Oh,
is really understandable and appreciated. And Megan, I appreciate your patience with me as well. I really do. And Nick,
job. Yeah.
you
Yes.
stayed with us until beyond the time you're supposed to. So I thank you for your being here. I really do.
I want to put something else out there that I think we've mentioned before. I just want to put it into everyone's minds again. Not that we have to go out and evangelize, but it would be nice to find some more, you know.
Yes.
We lost Sarah. I feel like we lost,
Wayne.
we lost Wayne. I would love to not be the token man on the committee, but I'm fine. But yeah, I think we would be stronger with more people. So
Yeah,
if you see or hear of it anyway,
Yeah, well, we do have Elizabeth coming on.
That's great.
yeah.
She's definitely coming. She missed it somehow. It was not able for her to be approved or the town for her to come to this meeting.
Yeah.
But she did tell me that she's definitely going to try to make it to the next meeting, and she's
Okay.
all for being a part of this committee. So that gives us a mindset of a younger person,
Nice.
especially someone being at in the DEI of the school.
Yeah.
So her perspective is going to be enlightening, bright, new, and fresh. We do have to find another man. So Mark can stop feeling like he's the rooster of the hen house.
Can I just ask a point of information, Mark? I think you would know this. When is the transition to the new year? Is it the first meeting in June? Is that the transition month? Like, when do we have to?
I don't know, I
report that
mean,
we
you,
want to continue. Do you
I
remember?
don't know if there's a set, I mean, you could. I don't think it necessarily ties to the fiscal year, especially since we don't have a budget. You could say it's before and after the town elections, because that's when there might be some changes of, but no, that's a good question.
Well, we have to apply. Remember, we have to apply. We
Yeah.
have to submit an
Right.
application, but I can't
Absolutely.
remember what month that is.
Well,
No,
I did
Oh.
have to, sorry,
no, I'm sorry, you mean like we need to be reappointed?
yes.
That's
Yeah.
right, exactly.
And so let me ask,
Right.
someone on the select board.
I do have that information.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I had to be reappointed. Well, I have to be voted in, which, oh, I forgot my paper.
That's okay.
Oh, no, I needed signatures, and I said I would bring it to the meeting. Oh, well, but,
Oh,
I believe, yeah, I had, yeah.
where is it? Is it just at your house?
Yeah, yeah,
You wanna like,
no, I can do it after, because we can't sign it in a public place. It has to be outside of a public.
so out in the parking lot?
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, but I believe Jennifer told me I had to have this information in by April 1st. So I was also going to go to the town tomorrow and speak to Jennifer and ask her, is there a date for any of the other meetings? That's the deadline, or is the paper she gave me with the deadlines and information for every committee? So I can definitely
Ask.
email you
Yeah.
tomorrow with that information.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
And
asking because it would seem like that would be a good time, to your
Yeah.
point, Mark, which I totally agree with. If we're gonna recruit new members, I think there's a new year when we begin again and decide on all the positions and all of that.
Right.
So it's
Mm.
coming up. I know it's
Yeah.
gonna come up and it'll be here quickly, so I
Oh,
think
yeah.
it's a
Yeah,
really
if
good
I had to
question.
guess, if I had to guess, it would be the first select board meeting after the town elections.
Yeah,
Mhm,
it'll be my
That,
guess,
that would be my guess.
yeah.
Okay.
something like, that. So it's around the corner.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
just have to, I have to have it in and,
Cause I know that
Yeah.
the last day to pull papers for elected positions, which we're not, is next Friday, I think,
Yes.
the 28th.
well,
Yeah,
I
okay.
pulled mine already, so
Yeah.
that was for one committee. But I forgot to go today to ask her about if I need to pull papers or if it's, do I just stay on it? I don't know, so that I can definitely find that out
Yeah.
for you. And it, like Mark said, it's probably after the select board town meeting, but
Yeah,
you want to know before then, just so
Yeah.
you can be prepared.
Right.
and my understanding, I could be wrong, when we talk about pulling papers, it's to go through the legal proper channels to get,
Voted in,
to get on the ballot,
yeah.
to be elected. So since we are not, that wouldn't apply to us
No.
because we are appointed by, what we do is we write our letters of intent, our desire to be on here,
Mhm.
and those are then reviewed by the select board.
But that's the date, I think,
Oh,
that we
okay,
need to know.
that's what
Right.
you need to know,
Yeah,
right,
that's the date
That's
we
the
need to know.
one.
When is the deadline for that?
right, which
Right.
I would imagine is not, isn't, town elections or,
We can
May.
find out. We'll find
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
blow your mind
I
for
think
it.
May 1st is town meeting.
Mhm,
And I think the elections is like the next Thursday,
okay,
because they used to have the elections and then have town meeting.
Yeah, I remember
Okay.
But
that.
they moved it beyond it because it didn't seem fair that, say, one group
Town meeting the first.
creates a budget and then gets voted out, and then
Yeah.
somebody else owns their
Yeah.
budget.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I have town meeting on May 1st. I do have
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
And then
and so
it's,
then I think the elections might be the next Thursday.
So after the town meeting.
So
Yeah,
Okay.
so maybe the.
what is the
11th.
term length? Is it that you get renewed every year, or you just do one and you're done
On
for
here, we're each year.
each year? Okay.
I mean, on the elected, there's all different,
Yeah.
some, like,
Right.
planning board, we're 5
That's
years.
mine, 5 years.
Some are 3 years, some are 2 years.
Yeah.
some are
Right,
1
and if
year.
somebody leaves and they fill a slot, I think it's just for the
It
term.
is,
Right,
and
right.
that's what
Right.
happened.
To-
I filled
To
the slot,
keep
yeah,
this, to
Exactly.
keep the staggered.
right.
You don't.
Yes.
I filled the slot, and that's why now I have to go through
Right.
the ballots and everything, because I only filled a slot, but now I have to be appointed and elected.
Yeah.
Should we
Yeah.
let Nick go home?
So,
Yeah.
oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes, Nick. Okay,
Yes.
so does anyone move to adjourn? the
I would make a motion
Motion, sorry, a
that,
motion.
I would move that we adjourn this meeting after a successful endeavor.
Yes,
Yes.
and do I have a second?
A second.
Megan seconds,
Okay.
okay, and then Mark.
I'm trying to help you. I'm hungry.
Okay, all in
Mark,
favor?
aye.